Namaste and welcome to Satsang this evening here in the UK. So today, one of the things that's come up this week, whatever's happening during the days and hours before Satsang usually ends up being whatever seems to want to express itself and seems to be relevant for everyone. If it's happening for us, it's happening for everyone because there's only one of us. So what that is today is this idea coming up over and over again that the particular thoughts in our mind are too strong to overcome. The particular emotions or thought patterns that we've got going on are too powerful, that we seem to be just kind of stuck in believing them, experiencing them. Perhaps even worse than that, stuck in experiencing those thoughts, believing those thoughts, and also knowing they're not true, having seen perhaps a glimpse of something more profound about our real nature. For me, that was the worst place in my awakening. I had seen the silence, the emptiness of my being, the depth and the profound nature of what I really am. And then 2 minutes later, literally, 10 seconds sometimes, back in believing some particular thought. And that thought seemed inconsequential and irrelevant 2 minutes before in that seeing. 2 minutes later, that seeing seemed inconsequential and irrelevant and gone and forgotten. And this thought seemed very, very strong and powerful. And it's a really tricky place to, if you find yourself, we all find ourselves there at some point. There's something about the mind that's very hypnotic, very transfixing. And even though it generally tends to make us feel miserable to believe thoughts, we find ourselves doing it anyway and feeling the negative emotions that go with that. So if I believe I'm not good enough, I'm going to feel unworthiness and shame. If I feel that I'm not safe, I'll feel fear, anxiety, panic, nerves, everything in between. If I feel that I can't get what I want, that life isn't fair, life's working against me, can't trust life, I'll feel anger, frustration, irritation, rage, impatience, you name it, we'll experience those things. And we've all had those times where those emotions, those thoughts are just simply, they seem to be too strong. That I know theoretically what I should do in that moment, but they just seem too strong. Perhaps I know I should self-inquire or contemplate or work at disbelieving this thought, moving away, bringing my attention away. But can I actually do that in any particular moment? What does it mean to be the self in that moment? When I feel disempowered, is my mind working against me actively? Or could there be something else that's going on that once we understand it, then we can begin to work with our mind? So there's something that became clear to me over time, which hopefully I can make clearer faster in this satsang. And that is that there is no thought or emotion that is stronger than me, that is more powerful than me. Of course, I experienced that many, many times, that there actually was a whole lot of thoughts more powerful than me. Certain thoughts in particular that I wasn't good enough or that I was never going to wake up to the truth. Those thoughts seemed so utterly, infinitely powerful, actually. And I'd heard the theory, of course. I'd heard many teachers saying that a thought only has the power that you give it. A thought on its own is nothing, and a thought with attention becomes powerful, and then with a lot of attention becomes a belief. And I'd heard all of that, but it didn't help me in those moments, those moments where you're in some dark place and you're despairing, probably, or trying to get out of it. And nothing seems to work. Like quicksand, the more you struggle, the deeper you get pulled into it. So I wanted to really share what came out of those times for me. And I'm talking years and years of those particular times, so that hopefully it doesn't take you that long. And after all, that is the function and the purpose, one of them, of a teacher, to really try to shortcut and point out things that might not be obvious. So what if, instead of the fact that our mind, the idea that we have that our mind is working against us and suggesting all of these thoughts right after a deeper seeing, or if you even haven't even had a seeing as yet, it doesn't matter in that way. Still, there'd be some thoughts that seem too strong. What if it's not doing that, our mind, to kind of sabotage our awakening? What if it's not on a mission to move us away from reality? What if the exact opposite has been true? What if our mind is helping us to come to live as our real nature? What if every time our mind shows us some thought or idea that we feel is too strong to overcome, to step away from, where we don't feel I have a choice, do I believe this or step away? What if our mind is then really serving us? What if our mind isn't pulling us around and it's actually helping, and we haven't seen it that way? And I know if I was listening to these words when I was in that place, my very next statement would probably be, how on earth could my mind ever be helping me when it's bombarding me with things, stories, painful stories, over and over again, like it's out to terrorize me rather than help me? But it really depends on where we're looking from. So if I am a separate person, if I believe myself to be a someone, and the mind is throwing all this stuff at me, I'm going to feel powerless over it. If I've started to realize, though, that I'm not that at all, that I am the source of the mind, I am the infinite power behind the cosmos, then we can look at mind's thought suggestions in a different way. Every time I came up against some thought in my own awakening, some thought that seemed impossible, I'm not a good enough parent, I'm really never going to have enough of what I need, I'm never going to wake up, nobody likes me, and I could tell you the whole sob story of my mind, probably very similar to yours. Every time I came up against one of those, there was this not enough power, this feeling of not enough power to transcend this in that moment. There's not enough power. I don't have enough spiritual power to just watch this thought go by. I'm drawn into it. I've been believing it for 10, 15 minutes or days or weeks before I even realize that that's what's going on. So I started to question, if I am believing myself to have not enough power in that moment, maybe mind is doing this, not in a sentient way, because mind isn't sentient in that way, but maybe it's showing me all the thoughts where I'm living as a separate being, where I don't feel I have enough power, where I feel I'm a separate being and powerless over the mind. And that's what all of these thoughts, all of these sub stories that I had, this pity party that was my seeking at the time. They all had this in common. I just could not overcome them. Again and again and again, they came back. And I'm sure you've got your own versions. We all have. Usually something to do with not being good enough, not being loved or lovable, first and foremost. Not being accepted by others, things like that. So what if in those moments, instead of deciding I didn't have enough power, maybe each time that happened, I was being asked to call forth, to give birth to allow forward more of my original nature in that moment, more of the infinite power that I am. Maybe it's not that I have or don't have power. Maybe it's that I am that power, the power that creates all of this. And what happens if I gently, softly, in that moment, desire, intend, I'd like to allow more of the infinite power that I am to come to the surface. What if each impossible to overcome thought was asking us to elicit, to allow, to draw out more of what's here, essentially? What if our ability to express and use the power that we are, not that we have, because that would make us separate to it, and somebody could take it away. Maybe it's a supply and demand, this power, when it's expressed. Maybe it only comes forth when I ask it, when I need it, when I know it must be there. It's impossible then when I feel I'm a separate being, when I come to recognize, even just mentally at first, conceptually, that I am infinite, formless sentience, infinite power, the sustainer, creator, and destroyer of the universe, in fact. And that same infinite power that appears as a fiery sun or a black hole or a tsunami or an earthquake is actually inside every cell of my being, but has to be called forth, that we've only ever called as much forth as we've needed. And this impossible thought is only impossible until we simply, very quietly, I'd like to see that I have the strength, the power, the conviction to overcome this, to just step away. What if every thought that was offered then by the mind was an opportunity to allow more of my original nature to come to the surface? And there is no greater delight than just watching a thought go by. Just watching a thought go by, appears and then disappears, that used to really pull you in and have such a strong, visceral, emotional response, and maybe a corresponding experience in our life. To just know, even just here, to know that I have the power somewhere inside me to let this come and go. And if it isn't, if it's sticking to me, it's because I haven't activated this. I haven't allowed, I haven't dug deep enough. I haven't finessed the power of my essential nature. I'm still functioning here like a separate being that can be overcome by this thought, at the mercy of our mind. So what are the thoughts that are too strong for you? Too powerful for you? When they come up, they have that feeling of dread, because you know they're just going to be here for as long as they're here and there's nothing you can do about them. And you hear annoying teachers say, just witness that thought, just stay as the self. And you can't seem to do that in that moment. Not that teachers are annoying, but sometimes for me they were. It was like, how do I actually do that? So it became this quiet, simple call or prayer or invocation to just see more of what I really am in that moment. And just that quiet moment of prayer or asking or allowing or openness. In that, something would shift each and every time. Something would move to the forefront until it became a habit. Where I'd seen so many times then that there is no thought that can hypnotize me. When I'm not a person, I'm not anything. I'm not anything that can be transfixed. I don't have a location, I'm everywhere. Whose thoughts am I listening to? In which body? In which head am I listening? So it isn't something that automatically comes to the surface. We have to kind of call it, activate it. And maybe a sage is just one who has learned to do that habitually. That whenever I feel I don't have enough strength to turn away from anything, of course, there's nothing wrong with thoughts. They're very functional and helpful. But you know the thoughts I'm talking about, the ones that are just stick to you like glue. And within a very few minutes, you're in this very hellish experience. What if you stopped struggling in that moment and just asked, is there more to me? Is there more power than I've allowed forth? What if my mind then is helping me every single time? If it is our servant then rather than our master. And for me, this was life-changing. Of course, I didn't always remember immediately to ask every time. I got caught in some thoughts. And when the experience became miserable enough, I would remember eventually. But I just got a little quicker at it each time. You don't blame yourself. Can I actually just come to a place softly, gently, just a thought? I'd like to remember who I am in this moment. That space from which all thoughts arise and that none can cling to. Not a idea, a thought constructed person that's actually like flypaper for thoughts. So maybe each time you get caught in something, it's asking you to allow more, incrementally, moment by moment. And that maybe that's the only way as human beings we tend to allow that to come to the surface. What if each thought was like adding another couple of weights on the thing that you're lifting? Like you're working out, like you're building a muscle, a habit to ask for more to come, not to be given from the outside, but to be allowed from the heart, this infinitely powerful heart that we are, that is our real nature. So just the simplest of thoughts, desires, intention, asking, prayer, whatever word suits you. And if you don't like prayer, that's okay. Intention. This is happening so I can be more of myself. This is happening so that I can flex this muscle that has kind of atrophied through misuse, lack of use even. Just this one shift, this isn't happening to pull me off my awakening, away from the realization of the truth, but this is happening to allow me to live as this. That I will forget every time that I am the infinite power, unless I really have to remember. And believing thoughts gets you to that place where you have to remember. I've never met a human being, myself included, who just said, each and every day I'm going to sit here and remember more of who I am. All of us come to this pathway through suffering, through believing thoughts, through just about having enough, or already having enough of feeling like a separate being. That dead-end cul-de-sac that crushes all our hopes and dreams. So what if the very next time you believe a thought, you look at it in a different way? Because it will happen until it doesn't. But if your go-to response, your habit became, I'd like to allow more of this to the surface. As if you literally had to draw it out. It wasn't ever going to say, here I am. Because of our habits, our tendency to believe that we're powerless is stronger currently than our habit to allow more to come to the surface. What if that was more your go-to habit when a thought arises? Because that's all that's really going on in awakening. You see yourself to be the thought-free place, that place from which all thoughts arise. The thoughts are even made out of that place and cannot be stronger than you. And that's seen clearer and deeper each time, whichever way that happens. Self-inquiry, spontaneous insight, meditation, contemplation. And then the other side of that coin is seeing where you're still believing those thoughts and coming away from them, remaining more as and in your essential nature. What if mind then is your best friend, actually? It's like, I don't want to be friends with my mind. But what if we could change our attitude to this? What if it was helping you? What if that's the way that every sage had come back to their innate freedom by overcoming? And instead of pushing away, had begun to cultivate this habit of eliciting, asking, opening. There's somewhere inside me already that is not touched by this thought at all. Where is that place inside? I'd like to see. I invite it to become clearer, to come more obvious, to come to the surface. I like to hang out in the depths of my being than on the surface. What if that was the sole reason our mind was doing what it does? And the very moment that you really took that in, it could stop. It became a habit to be constantly in discovery even, also, of who you really are. And that this discovery didn't have to be driven by suffering. And when I really got this, everything turned around, everything changed. I still believed thoughts for a while, as I said. It wasn't like some magic key, but I didn't blame myself then. It's just like, okay, here's a place where I can allow more of my essential nature to shine here, to come to the surface. And then you stop battling your mind. You stop being at war with it. You stop seeing it as the bad guy, the party crasher, the uninvited guest, the one that wants to ruin your fun. And you start to see it as some valuable tool. And then even more than a valuable tool, it becomes a mechanism through which you, the infinite being, can express yourself in and as the world. You just take a moment now with me here, decide to make friends with your mind a little bit more, or a lot. Maybe we've just never really understood its function. Maybe the thought that we've been really believing is this idea that it is our enemy. What if it was just insentient and innately powerless? Unless we believe it's powerful. And then it takes on that characteristic. And could today be the day that you change your relationship with your mind? It's your creation anyway. So might we make friends with it and begin to work with it in an intelligent way? Okay, I'm going to read 2 or 3 questions that have been sent in. I'd like to invite up to 4 questions here, things that you need to share if you want to raise your hand. Okay, I'll come to you after I've read these. So this first one says, hello, thank you for all you are doing in the awakening. Hi, I've got many questions, but I'll start with this one. How is it that people have been given their role to play? I mean, if you compare a drug addict to a person who seems to have no problems at all in the world, it looks unfair, considering that we are all one being and that we have no choice in the doership. I feel lucky in such a way, but have I had this hard role? That was a hard sentence to read. Have I had this hard role in another life? And what happens to an enlightened being when he dies? Does one get to choose if he wants to be reborn, or is it free? Thank you, and all best wishes to you. Well, there's about 3 questions in one there, so I'm going to do my best to answer the first one. So why the difference between someone who's really suffering with an addiction and someone who seems to be doing just great? I think that's the essence of your question. If there's only one being and there's no doer or chooser, why is there this difference in the appearance and the manifestation of human beings? And you could say that there is just the one being, and it's expressing itself in a unique and individual way for each human body and each form that it appears in and as. When we see differences between, if we look at someone who we would classify as really being quite selfish, self-centered, and someone who is working for the good of all humanity, the only difference in that is how much of that real nature, how much of that being, that real essential power, silence, infinite formlessness is being allowed to shine through. So you could have the most powerful, bright, brilliant white light, blinding light. And then if you put something in front of that, anything over this side, the light's going to be diminished, isn't it? So the same bright, brilliant white light allowed to express itself at varying degrees, depending on which thoughts are being believed. And of course, at first, we don't seem to have a choice in that at all. Even if I feel that I'm a separate being, cut off from the rest of everything, separate to everyone and everything, then I am disallowing at least 95% of that light, probably more like 99%, probably more like 99.9%. This brilliantly powerful being that is appearing as all of this believes itself to be very small and finite and separate, powerless. Then it starts to feel unsafe and unworthy. And it does all of these things to try to feel better. Of course, we all have our unique things. We may become addicted to things. We may use food, shopping, sex, alcohol, drugs, whatever we all do. We may even use our seeking, our satsang, as a way to hide from our meditation. I know I did, as a way to hide from how I was feeling. And we all have our ways of avoiding these feelings. So it's not so much somebody, some great God in the sky arbitrarily says, okay, you're going to be an addict, you're going to be a saint. It's more like, what ideas am I still believing in this particular incarnation, this form? And because of those ideas, whatever frequency those ideas are, some light is allowed to shine through or not. You can never fully extinguish it because it is infinitely powerful. But you can put so many thoughts in front of it that it just seems to obscure it, like clouds in front of the sun. The sun is still brilliantly, powerfully, giant fireball in the sky. But it looks dark and clouded from the surface of the earth. So hope that helps. Just very quickly, the second question, what happens to an enlightened being when he dies? Well, he doesn't die. He just watches the body lose its shape, go back to its elemental nature, gets recycled and then made into another form. Does one get to choose if he wants to be reborn? Do we get to choose, really? Anyway, did you get to choose this lifetime on the level that you're talking about here? Or was it driven by these unconscious desires to feel safe, to feel loved? And when those are gone, when those are fulfilled, when I realize I'm always been safe, I couldn't get any safer because I'm the only thing that exists. Always been the source of love, even, that my worthiness has never been in question. Then it's really up to you then. It's your choice whether you want to do this again. But coming from a place where you haven't forgotten what you've seen this lifetime, not subject anymore to that amnesia that most beings have already free. So I'll read one more question. Hi, Helen. For some time now, I feel I have been waking up. This has intensified over the last couple of years. I've been suffering from long COVID for almost 2 years. And because of this, I've had to stop working and now spend a lot of time alone in meditation. My question is concerning the purpose of my illness. You have mentioned many times that our core beliefs are reflected in our outer circumstances. Because of having long COVID, I have had a lot of time to see the core beliefs that are holding me back. I have significant feelings of unworthiness related to things from my past and thoughts. I should mention I also suffer from anxiety and at times OCD, often severe. I see this time as enabling me to go within, and I hope to keep awakening. However, I am wondering if the illness is also being perpetuated by my own core beliefs, which is why I'm still not better after nearly 2 years. There is a part of me that accepts this illness and sees it as a good thing, but there is also a part of me that believes it could be made worse by my core beliefs. If you could let me know your thoughts, I would be very grateful. Thank you so much. So it could be both, right? So everything that happens to us is helping us to look deeper. And for me, illness and things like that, when it happened, injury, illness, it's always a time to slow down and actually look at what's going on. Quite often I didn't want to be slowed down. Life had to do it for me, force me to take a look. And it looks like you've done that with this too. You've been able to look at what it might be trying to show you. And in that way, it's a good thing, isn't it? Of course, it's not pleasant at all. It's quite the opposite. But it has allowed you to put more attention on what those thoughts are. That you've mentioned anxiety, unworthiness, things like that come into the surface. Some deep belief that you're not safe. And whatever we're thinking and feeling inside is reflected in a mirror image. So if this thing isn't changing, if this situation isn't changing, then there must be something inside that's not changing or not being seen through too. And I think that's what you're pointing at here with these questions that you're writing in here. It could also be as well for me when I was ill and not able to go out of the house. It wasn't very often, but I'd feel terrible, of course, in my body, but I would also feel a little bit safer because I couldn't actually go out there. That was a thing that would play out for me. It might not be your what's going on inside you, just maybe inside me at the time. So it will be a reflection of what you're believing. And as you look at what those emotions are, and then what that emotion is trying to tell you, anxiety, you can get a sense of what anxiety is trying to tell you. Something is very, very wrong here. Something is about to go very bad. I am not safe. I'm in danger. Can you get a sense of that? Unworthiness. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. And it makes sense, kind of, doesn't it? If I don't feel good enough in the core of my being, then I might want to isolate myself from other beings, just in case they really see me and find out I'm not good enough. It could be some of that deep down inside. Of course, not consciously. None of this is what we're consciously thinking. But now, to look at those beliefs and move beyond them would help this to begin to move forward. Perhaps even just to ask yourself why, on some deep level, not consciously, why do I want to stay at this status quo? What am I gaining out of it? For me, when I asked myself that question, it was very revealing. It was, well, I'm safer like this. I can't be exposed to people who might judge me, or all of that. I hope that gives you something to work with there. Very honest sharing. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to Christine first, whenever you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
I'm one of the people that your talk really spoke to. It's me that's been asking you quite a lot of questions on the
They're all
Facebook.
good, and they're all everyone's questions, so.
Thank you. However, I did start to feel, because I ended up with a migraine, which is my pattern, the tension, and fell into exactly what you were saying, feeling frustrated and like I'm never going to get this. And
can you see the sense of limitation there?
Yeah.
I just can't get this. I'm just not going to be able to see what I need to see here.
Yes, because I had been having openings. And then, here it is again. I'm not progressing with this, I'm not. So I started to wonder whether I was trying too hard, whether my mind had taken hold. And yet at the time, I've been listening to the course, the home study course. It seemed like there were more openings, or more just times when I was present. So I guess listening to what you're saying, it's coming up to be seen through.
Impossible to live in permanent peace if you've got this belief that there are some things that you just can't overcome.
Yeah.
And it's not a conscious thought, is it? It's just when this pattern arises, or this emotion, or this physical thing, or this financial situation arises, there's this real feeling of, not this again. I'm never going to get beyond it. It's like a real deflation or hopelessness or something.
Yes, and most often I think because it's quite an old pattern, there's not a clear thought.
It's more just of a feeling, isn't it? I'm just never going to get beyond this. It's just going to be there.
Yeah, and even what starts the tension, it doesn't seem to be a clear thought that starts the kind of contraction.
Yeah.
It's just this thing that comes upon me, sensation, feeling. I did try to do a self-inquiry.
Yeah.
But in the minute I started to try that, the tension just got worse. And the
mind doesn't want you to kind of break through this idea, does it? Here, this idea seems so true, that there's some things that can stop me, block my pathway.
Yes.
And that mind holds on to that really, and does whatever it needs to do. For me, it would create financial disasters to kind of take my attention over there instead of staying where I literally experience being powerless to actually do anything about this. A real sort of in the moment experience, because mind really thinks this is true. And as a separate being, it is true that there's something that can get in your way. But as the infinite self, if we don't try hard right now, if we just consider, if I am all of this, can there be anything that's stronger than me? So we're not like pushing against anything, we're not even trying to achieve anything. We're just looking at that possibility right now. Can there be anything more powerful? Can there be anything other than me actually to get in my way? That very idea is in tune-ness, isn't it? Me and what's blocking me, this physical thing, this migraine in this case. So just gently, it can't be true actually that I can be blocked by this, even though I'm having this experience right now. Maybe I'm just not going to believe this thought this time. I'm going to ask for more power to come to the surface here. I'm not going to struggle or fight against anything. I'm just going to ask to be shown who I really am in this moment.
Yes, that's a new step for me. I haven't heard of this before, so thank you. I'm going to really give it a try.
It's an idea that I came up against time and time again, that I can be powerless over something or someone, some person out there, some authority, some organization, or whatever, some emotion inside will be stronger than me, some thought. Inside and outside, it played this idea. Had to really look at it. Can that be true if I am the infinite being? But not in a sort of I need to do something about this. I'm having this experience right now that something's blocking me. Can I handle this differently? Can I just relax a little bit and ask, this can't actually be true. I'd like to see what's actually true. It's an effortlessness, isn't it? It's just, okay, I'm just going to be curious here and see if this is actually true for me. So our habit is just to try to do something about this, isn't it?
Yes, yes, and I really identify with what you were saying about the authority, external authorities.
Terrified of them I was, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it seems that they're separate to us, and it seems that they have power over us, just like our thoughts, our emotions seem to have power over us, but ultimately it can't be so. Just instead of struggling, it's just more of a taking a moment when you can remember just to hang on, maybe that struggle is what's reflecting here as this experience.
Showing up to be seen through.
Yeah. Here's another place I think I'm powerless. When in reality, I am that infinite power. Just remembering that in that moment is going to change things. Even if it's just a thought I'm running through my head, it is going to change the outcome of that particular experience.
Wow, okay. That's amazing. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Wonderful. Good to talk to you, Christine.
Good to talk to you too, Helen. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Steph.
Hi, Helen.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm doing kind of okay.
Good.
I have been really, really struggling with I'm struggling with allergies, but I don't want to go into that whole big story. I have a little dog that I just acquired that is a breed I'm not allergic to, but I am allergic, and we're kind of snowed in here in the house. And so I'm having these big challenges of how do I breathe?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that is really kind of triggering the feeling of I don't have enough power to meet this.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to give my dog away. And I was going to ask you today for a first aid kit. You know, do you have some first aid for those moments when we get stuck? And amazingly, that's what your satsang is about.
It always tends to work that way, doesn't it? Whatever's going on here is what's necessary and even helpful for everyone. Yeah.
It sure is speaking to me right now. I feel real aware of the huge resistance in me to seeing myself as infinite, as powerful. That just feels real. It feels real dangerous to me. When I had the image of the tsunami, when you were talking about the tsunami, I thought about being, oh my God, I'm not safe. I'm the tsunami. I'm going to be crushed by the tsunami. And then I sort of thought, okay, what would the infinite say about this? That we're also the power of the tsunami as well.
Yeah.
And I can't wrap my brain around that. And I also know that
just neutral, isn't it? Power. We're used to worldly examples of power where it's used for something or by someone, over someone else sometimes, or against someone else's will. But real spiritual power, the actual power of our authentic nature, we don't use it, we just are it. So it's inherently neutral in that way. It's not dangerous or good, it just is. And it's that sort of power source from which, just like electricity, it can be really helpful. It can give you a shock, or it can turn on your lights. It's not good or bad inherently, as it just is. It's just flowing through the wires, and what you do with it is different, isn't it? So power just is. Real authentic spiritual power. It's not something we can use or misuse. It's just what we are. And as we realize that, you might come to see we've been using that power against ourselves in a way, to experience these thoughts over and over again, that there's something stronger than you.
Yeah.
But even that very idea means that there's two things. There's you and something else. Here in this case, you and this beautiful little animal, and that you are two separate things. And that this dog and you, one thing's affecting the other. Can you see that idea? Something about this beautiful dog and it's affecting my body because those two things are different, says the mind.
I'm hearing what you said to me last week or a couple of weeks ago about how the mind can't sort that out. It has to get sorted out within what I really am. And that's certainly something to think about, is that me and the dog are not separate.
Because in the mind's perspective, and of course that's the only way a mind can see it, you've got to make a decision here. You either, and that will happen eventually, I either have to give the dog to someone else, or I overcome this somehow and able to work through it. And but this is happening for a reason, isn't it? There's a reason why you're suddenly seemingly allergic to this breed of dog when you weren't before. You know, something's happening here that's important, isn't it, for your own awakening. And of course that's going to bring stuff up. If you feel that you can't breathe, that might be very, very scary. But also there's an opportunity, and of course, you know, if you need to get medical attention, do the best with that you need to, of course. But at the root of this is the idea of two, isn't there? Me and this other being. And what happens if you don't subscribe to that? That cannot be what's actually going on here. Maybe what I'm suffering from is my thoughts rather than what my mind says, my thoughts of two-ness.
And I found myself, since I am allergic to a lot of other dogs, and I live in a rural place, there are dogs everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's very inconvenient. And there was something inside me that just said, it's time to deal with this. I don't want to be allergic to dogs anymore. I want to work through this and keep my little dog if possible. I'm working with a doctor on it, and
Good.
This is helping me work with my thoughts. It really ties into that fear that seeing myself as infinite and powerful is a very scary thing. Fear that I cannot be trusted with that kind of seeing myself. And
that's true if this is something different. If I turned you into something different and said, here, look at who you really are. But all you're doing is seeing who you've always been and could never not be. So why should anything change in that? Why would you suddenly decide to take actions that are not in the best interest of you or anyone else? You know, why would it suddenly change the course of your life? Couldn't it really only enhance the course that you're already on and the values that you already have, peace and truth and love and compassion? You're only looking in a mirror and going, oh, that's me. Really, I thought I was this and I'm actually this. There's no change happening there. There's just a recognition, isn't there, of what's already been so. For me, that just let me look at it without the fear. You know, this idea that if you give me too much power, I'll do something really, really bad with it. It was deep inside me too. And I had to really look at it like this. Because we feel not good enough. We feel not, there's something really fundamentally wrong with me. And if you give me lots of power, I'll misuse that. Even if I don't mean to, somehow I'll find a way. But you're not gaining this power. You're only seeing how you've been using this power that you are unconsciously against yourself to experience your thoughts in this virtual reality going on in our head.
And I've had those glimpses of it, and a few sustained periods where I just really see that, and it's not scary, and it's not causing me to become irresponsible.
Quite the opposite, in fact.
Yeah, true. So that's my first aid from you is that allowing myself to see myself as I truly am, and always have, and always
could never not be. Yeah, could never not be.
Never
to see
not.
yourself as you could never not be. You know, you've always been this. You're not changing from a someone into the self.
Yeah.
Because mind's fear is true and possible if you were changing, if it was a changeover happening here, but there really isn't, is there?
So I could really say that even when I'm not in touch with that groundedness in my being, I could still say I know it's there.
Yeah.
And it's bigger than these emotions that I'm feeling.
Right now, I feel this way, or there's these thoughts going on, or I'm having this experience, but it doesn't change who I am. Nothing can change who I am. And whenever this emotion goes, or this thought pattern disappears, or this experience stops, it will be clear again who I really am. But I've still always, all the way through that, my essential infinite nature is always the same. It could never be. Just like the sun is always shining, even when the clouds are seemingly in the way, the sun isn't affected, is it?
That helps. I'll keep working with that. Thank you, Helen.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Brave sharing. Thank you. Okay. Leslie? Hi.
Hi, Helen. I don't really know. I don't really know how to. I don't really know what I want to say, but something about I can't. I don't feel I can get off the starting post, and I can't really focus on anything, and I know that I'm using food to kind of numb out, and TV, and lots of avoidance stuff, but I don't know, I feel there's a lot of unhappiness, and I feel like it's kind of, as I'm getting older, it's getting worse, like I'm going into like a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't really know what I'm asking, but I just have had, I don't know, I wasn't gonna put my hand up, but anyway I did, and yeah, I don't know what to say. I just feel like I feel really cross with myself, because I've had years and years of doing the same thing, and like not doing anything different to what I'm doing. So I don't get anywhere, I just stay.
Maybe
stuck.
the starting, you said I can't get off the starting post or something like that. Maybe that starting post isn't what we think it is, actually. Maybe it's slightly different. I experienced a period in my life where just nothing happened. It was like 2.5 years where I was just kind of sitting in this very room and nothing was, it's like my life was just on pause. No matter what I did, I couldn't find the play button at all, couldn't find it. And there was a lot of anger about that, a lot of judgment, a lot of blaming myself that I wasn't progressing, or, all of that. And when I actually looked at what progress meant, like, what is progress? Is it going to show up, first of all, as my experience changing, my life unpausing? Or is there some other step first in between that will be more important than anything? And I was drinking too much, I was eating too much, sleeping too much, swearing too much, you name it, I was doing all of them. I wasn't doing anything spiritual, I wasn't meditating or anything like that. I was just totally, utterly stuck, or so it felt. And there was a growing feeling of hopelessness that just kind of, as the months went by, that just got worse. And I'm sure you can understand that feeling, maybe. So when I looked at what progress meant for me, eventually I had to admit that trying to get my outer circumstances to change, so healthier coping mechanisms, of not overeating and all of that, that wasn't working. Nothing I tried to do would change my outside circumstances. My body would do the same things no matter what my desires were. It was just following these same patterns. And finally, I realized that the progress I was looking for initially was a lack of judgment about these things. And I faced this horrible question one day, which was horrible, but it actually turned everything around. The question was, what if this never changes? And I didn't want to look at that at all, but it kept popping up in my head. What if you never get out of this? What if you never move beyond these unhealthy habits? Do I have to still judge myself for them? And it took a little while and a little consistency of looking. And an honest moment, if I could change this right now, I would. And the fact is that I can't right now, can't change it. Not that I won't, because that was what I was telling myself. I'm just being lazy, or I'm not being focused enough, or I'm sure you've got your own version of that story. I can't right now. The only thing I could change right now was how much I was judging myself for the situation I was in. And that just happened to be the magic thing anyway. So when I just accepted this is what's supposed to be, maybe I'm supposed to be on pause right now. And maybe that's the only way I'm going to come to a complete lack of self-judgment and criticism and all those other things I was doing to myself. And as I started to get that, things began to move. It's not like I suddenly, I lost, 30 pounds and, suddenly got super focused and went to the gym or something. That all did happen, but it took, it unfolded over time. But I started to see little changes that went faster and faster. And I would go in the kitchen, stand in front of the fridge, and then I was able to just shut the fridge door and go away again more often than I came away with food, just things that began to change that seemed impossible before. So for you, looking at these stories, what are the stories you're telling yourself, about the fact that you're still here doing this? And can you begin to let go of those? We don't really know that this isn't what's supposed to be happening right now. If it wasn't supposed to be happening now, it wouldn't be.
Seems to be going on a long time.
Yeah.
Like decades.
And what's the story that you're telling yourself? That you should have overcome this? You should be beyond this? You're obviously doing something wrong. What's going on?
Yeah, there's something that what's wrong with me keeps coming up. What is wrong with me? Like that comes up a lot. What is wrong with you?
Why can't you just move? Why can't you just do something? Why can't you just break through?
Yeah, why can't I just even sit and meditate for 5 minutes every day? Like that's no biggie, right? Why can't I do that? Why am I constantly
maybe your whole life's a meditation at the moment, where you're really in a deep contemplation of these and deep seeing of these ideas of self-judgment. That if you start to write these stories down, you'll see how negative and critical they are about yourself.
Yeah.
What's if they're not true, actually? What if you're doing the best you can right now? Because we don't want to look at this because it says, mind suggests, well, if you accept that you're doing the best you can right now, nothing is ever going to change. You're just going to be like this forever. But is criticizing and judging and rejecting yourself actually working?
No, but I don't know any other way. Like,
just add a different thought after what is wrong with me? That thought goes through. Why am I still doing this? You can add another thought. You can have the last word. Well, maybe I'm doing the best I can. Or what would the Buddha say about me in this situation? What would Christ say? What would any one of my favorite awakened beings say? Would they agree with the statement I've just said about myself?
mm-hmm.
Just even to question it like that, to be aware of these stories and to begin to step away from them gently. They'll still run, but what happens after that, you get control over, don't you? Whether you stay with that and believe it and feel terrible, or whether you go, well, is there another way I can see this actually? Can I add an extra bit to that story that, with a happier ending? And little by little, thought by thought, I just began to turn that around. And it was actually, didn't really take that long. Once I'd seen what the issue was, it took a long time to see that it was about self-judgment.
Yeah, the judgment's really strong, really strong.
And it's about as anti-infinite self as you can get, because the infinite self is pure love. So when it's trying to express itself as you, and the major thoughts that are going on are self-judgment and blame and criticism, it's kind of just held in this holding pattern, isn't it? So just pick one of those stories and decide you're not going to agree with it when it shows up next time. And it could be even right now. Why am I still listening to these satsangs, not getting anywhere? Why is this, whatever's going on? You can just begin to, what would unconditional love say about me in this moment? What would my favorite awakened being say? What would Krishna say right now? Would he, if he showed up in your front room right there, would he agree with what you've just said about yourself?
No, but there's another thought that comes in that I have only ever experienced separateness. I don't know anything else. Like I feel fully like a separate being. And so it's really hard for me to believe that Krishna or Buddha or Helen or Muji or whoever it is.
That's where
But
we all start from, though. Even Krishna, right? Had to take this first step like you're doing now. Thinking this way, conditionally loving myself is not working. My life is on hold while I do it. None of us are kind of born knowing how to unconditionally love ourselves. And nobody teaches you that at school. It's kind of something that we have to figure out as we go. Is this thought that I just had, is it conditionally loving? I love myself when and if, or is it unconditionally loving? That, I'm worthy of love, even if nothing changes, just as I am right now. I am loved and I am loving and lovable. Just start to ponder what unconditional love is, and you'll be surprised what happens. You don't have to know where that's going to take you or how that's going to unfold.
yeah, because I've just realized what I've been waiting to experience unconditional love, like to experience connection or oneness, and then I'll believe it. But it's got to be the other way around, hasn't it?
Absolutely. There you go. When my life begins to shift, then I'll love myself, says mind. And it's got to be the other way around. You are that love, but if we won't let it through our thought system, it has, that's the block right there. Then nothing can shift. But what if I love myself right now as I am, without any conditions that anything changes, and see what that does? Everything turned around for me when I really got this.
I'll try.
That's all you need to do. I'd just like to know what unconditional love is. What is it like to love myself unconditionally, without reserve, without condition? No idea how to do that, but I'm willing to kind of find out as I go. All kinds of help will come to help you with that.
Thank you, Helen.
The whole universe will work with you to fulfill that.
Thank you.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Well done. Last but not least, Shankara. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you so much, Helen.
Thank you.
Helen, when I take stand as awareness, take a stand as that infinite being, which I am, how to stay in that, how to fully realize it, like fully, not falling out or not believing the story of to be a separate being person. How do I fulfill this process of letting go of the person, however you call that, being free?
Let's look at what we mean by how do I stay as that? Let's look at that, because it makes sense to make sure we've got the right understanding of that we're trying to do. So what does it mean to you to stay as awareness? What does that mean for you?
Not believing to be a person, not to believing finite. Just be what I essentially am and live that. And live it.
So that awareness that you are, is it believing thoughts?
Yeah, sometimes it's believing thoughts. I mean,
let's slow down there and have a look.
Yeah.
It seems like it is, but
yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's totally independent.
So does it need to stay?
No, it's not.
Something needs to stay, something wants to stay, but is that you? If you are the awareness already, does it really matter to you then, the awareness, where your attention is, whether it's looking back at you, the awareness, or whether it's looking outwards at thoughts?
No, it's not. But who thinks it is? who is then the sufferer?
It's just a thought constructed sufferer, isn't it? It's made of thoughts. And those thoughts seem very convincing to that sufferer. I need to get away from these thoughts and back. I need to stay back here.
Yes.
And but is it the attention that's doing this?
Yeah.
I look at my real nature, then I look at thoughts, and I'd like to stop going here and stay here.
Yes.
But to the awareness, is it changing? Is it fluctuating like that? Or is it absolutely already free right now and could never not be? Is this your problem then? Wow.
Actually not.
Wow.
You're very good.
I remember when I first got this, I'm like, oh my word, that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. That's a big. Very good. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's the joy when awareness realizes, oh my God, I've always been free, right? Always. So utterly free. I thought I was bound.
Wow.
And you've carried this heavy burden. I need to stay as
Yes.
myself, when really you can't be anything other.
Wow.
It is
What
wow, right? It's
then
wow.
what is this then all? I don't understand. Wow.
There's a lot of energy just freed up, right, when you get this. The body's
Yes.
just like, oh.
Wow. Ooh. Sorry. But
It's the most believed idea of all, this one, isn't it?
yes. But now yes.
And there's just such joy on seeing it, isn't there? Such joy,
Yes.
freedom.
And I don't understand really how wow.
No, I just need to tell you one thing. You will
Please.
forget this every now and again.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But it's okay. It's okay, right? It's just an old habit to believe this.
Yes.
To give yourself this impossible task and then blame yourself when you can't seem to do it.
Okay.
But every time you come out of that, you go, oh, that was just a really bad dream. That was just a really bad dream.
Okay. Okay. So you experience the same thing, having
Oh,
insight
yes.
and
Oh,
then
yes.
falling kind of back in the attention, going and coming.
I'm trying so hard for 3 or 4 years at least to stay as the awareness. And then the utter freedom of realizing that's all I can do.
Yeah. And what was then the point where it let's say fully subsided or fully realized itself or just stabilized or
When I stopped
managed, whatever.
letting it, when I forgot, like I was just saying, when I forgot what you've just seen, I saw it and then I forgot it several times.
Yeah.
And I went back into some old mode of self-blame. So when I stopped blaming myself when it happened, okay, I just forgot for 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days. I forgot. It doesn't mean anything. Awareness is awareness. Whether my thoughts are clear and free or whether my thoughts are about suffering, awareness is awareness. And when I just stopped giving that meaning, it just stopped happening. And there was just some subtle knowingness that just got very obvious rather than subtle. It became more and more obvious that it doesn't matter what my mind thinks is going on or what's happening to my body or my emotions or my life. Of course, I'd like my life to be happy and my body to feel good, but I am myself no matter what. Nothing can change that. Even for however many hundreds of thousands of years and bodies that have come and gone while I've been believing myself to be caught in thoughts, bound, and needing then to be liberated. Still, I have remained the same the whole time. So I just stopped giving that meaning after a while.
And without giving that meaning,
it just fell away. It fell away. Yeah.
It's about So it's about
because
acceptance.
When it happens and you blame yourself, I've forgotten, what do I need to do to stop that from happening? You're immediately back into being a separate being that needs to do some work And it
you know,
spirals downwards then, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can even imagine that it will happen. I can even sense it right now that it may happen like this.
Yeah. Probably 5 minutes
Okay,
after we finish
but it's
talking.
totally okay.
No big deal. Yeah, no,
No
big
big
deal.
deal. No
Yeah.
big deal.
That's
Good.
your mantra now, right? No big deal. So what?
No big deal. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to talk to you. Wow. Okay. Let's leave it there for today. What a powerful way to finish. Thank you all for your brave sharing and the things that you sent into via email, via the website rather. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Namaste. Wonderful.